Good morning from Northern Alberta, Canada. I'm Christy. In today's video, I'm working on green tomatoes that I am preserving and processing via water bath canning in two ways. We're making salsa verde and we're making a curry sauce with green tomatoes. So I hope you stick around and see what I have done. This is not a how-to tutorial. This is just what I have done to preserve my harvest. Before I get on to canning, I do have a few things that I did pick. When I was picking tomatoes, I had a bunch of ripe ones and I wanted to preserve those as well. So I thought I would show you what I'm doing with that as well. So I have some peppers, random peppers, and a squash, as well as some tomatoes. This green pepper comes from my greenhouse. It's so pretty. I just love this, how it has the multicolor. But I'm going to freeze dry my cherry tomatoes because I like to crush them up and use them as a thickener instead of using tomato paste. And also these yellow tomatoes, I will use them in recipes, in savory recipes that are requiring sugar because they are quite sweet. So I can cut down the amount of sugar I'm using when I'm cooking by crushing these up and using them as a thickener or part of my recipe. So what I'm doing is I'm poking holes in all the cherry tomatoes so that they have a place for the moisture to exit out. When freeze drying, it's a good practice to do that. And then I'm just going to slice up my yellow squash. I'm not sure about you guys, but here where we're from, a lot of people in our area are having a really hard time with their squash this year with producing female flowers or male flowers. It was one of those years where you got lots of either or, lots of female flowers or lots of male flowers, and not both at the same time where they could pollinate. This pepper, I decided I was going to slice it up and add it to the tray just to kind of fill the tray up. It's nice to have these little random bits and bobs here and there in freeze dryer bags, just so I can grab when I'm in a rush. These are also really good snacks. I actually like just using these as like a dried chip. They have lots of flavor and a great texture. My lovely assistant Chaz is going to load the freeze dryer. This is the oddball tray. Do you want to tell them what we have in the freeze dryer already?
Just a lot of store-bought watermelon, and we're gonna freeze dry it, hoping that it'll turn into some kind of candy that tastes really good.
Because does it taste good right now?
Not compared to ours, nope.
It kind of tastes like raw pumpkin, like unripe pumpkin.
Yep.
It is the grossest watermelon I think we've ever had in our life.
Yeah, I think so too.
Well, hopefully the magic freeze dryer machine will do its thing. So you're gonna load this in and show them how to do it?
Yep.
Okay, here you go. Here's the camera.
Here's all our yummy foods that we're gonna be having. So, this is what we got in there right now. Just got some watermelons, a lot. Let's open her up. Take our tray, just slide her in there. There we go. And close her up, make sure she's nice and tight. And make sure you always close this valve here. Now press continue. Done. And about 48 hours we'll have some nice freeze-dried foods.
I have a ton of green tomatoes to go through. I have a 5-gallon bucket just like this. And so I thought I would just start chopping the green tomatoes and putting them in this roaster and just sorting out anything that's blushing so that they can ripen, and then I'll put those in the freezer to process in the winter. But I think I'm gonna make a salsa verde, and I might make like a curry, green curry sort of dish. We'll see we'll see how much I have and whatnot. So I'll get going on working on this today. I just worked through these tomatoes, slicing them or quartering them. The bigger ones I quartered. And some of them I did not take the core out at all because I'm going to be blending this up. It didn't really make much difference. And so I just kind of went through, made sure there was if there was blemishes or bad spots, I was cutting them off. I got the roaster all filled up, and there is already 2 cups of chopped onions. I had diced these up when I had harvested a few of them out of the garden. They were not going to be storing very well, so I had chopped them up and froze them in 2-cup measures. I'm going to add another one, so there'll be a total of 4 cups in my roaster. And then I found a couple of really ripe tomatillos, so I'm going to also add those into the green tomatoes, and I'll show you what they look like. All right, so I sliced open these tomatillos in comparison to a tomato. Now, for those of you that are not from my area, you know what a tomatillo is, but for the people that live here, most of the people that I know have never heard of or seen a tomatillo because most people here do not grow them. These are really, really ripe ones. This one here is probably where they're more average to be picked, so I'll just show a comparison. That's a green tomato, and then that's a tomatillo. So tomatillos are in the gooseberry family, and so I just had a couple to throw in. I have a whole bunch on my plants in the greenhouse, but I'm gonna do a separate batch, a no tomato separate batch of salsa verde for my niece who has a sensitivity to tomatoes. So it's a great option for me to make her a green salsa that she can eat. So what I'll do, I'll add this in, and I'm just going to let this cook down, like roast, just on a medium heat. I'll probably add a couple cups of water in there and just let it roast down. And then I will either pull some out or I'll just make a big batch of something and I'll let you know as I go. I haven't decided what I'm doing with it yet. So this has been cooking down for several hours, and it's reduced quite a bit. There's lots and lots of fluid in here, or liquid. And so I'm just going to scoop some of this out and put it into a pot because I decided I'm gonna make 2 dishes. I'm going to make the salsa verde, and I'm also going to make the green chili sauce, green curry sauce, not chili sauce, curry sauce. So, which is basically, it'll be a sauce for doing like chicken over rice, kind of like a butter chicken kind of sort of idea, or doing soups. Like if I wanted to do red lentil soup, I could add that in. I did notice I scorched it. I got busy with other things and I scorched it. My roaster's on its last legs. I have worn that thing out. So basically I just picked out any scorched bits and didn't process it. These were the outside peppers, what I had left of the ones that were growing outside. They're very small, and the hot peppers are so hot because I had them covered and wasn't watering them. It was a bad pepper year here, even though we had really higher than average temperatures. During the nighttime, our temperatures would drop down to about 12 degrees Celsius on average here for a duration of the evening. So our peppers were not really producing very well, and so I didn't get a lot of peppers outside or inside for that matter because of the pest pressure and whatnot that I had early in the spring. But yeah, I just chopped these up. Those green chilies are excruciatingly hot, way hotter than I was expecting because they hadn't been watered. Whew, they were warm. But that's what I chopped up, and I threw that right on into my green tomatoes that I had stewing on the stove in the small batch. Gotta love some chilies and jalapenos. I threw in whole cloves of garlic, that many, I don't know how many for sure. It was like a couple heads that I chopped up from some garlic I harvested out of the garden. And I'm going to be blending this up, so I didn't bother chopping it. I let it cook down till everything was all pretty soft, and then I just took my immersion blender and went at it and made it nice and smooth. There was a few little chunks here and there of green tomato, but this is like a salsa, so I didn't want it to be, really, really silky smooth. Time to season it. This is cilantro. I did not have access to cilantro fresh. Mine in the garden bolted, and there's none available in the stores. I'd have to drive an hour to the nearest grocery store that may possibly have it, so I didn't bother. And then I added cumin. This is some oregano. The recipe that I was kind of following, there was like this, and it wasn't really a recipe. Most recipes I do know call for oregano, so I added a dash of that. I added some salt, and I added actually more salt later. This wasn't enough. This was black pepper. I added some of that into there and gave it a good stir up. It kind of is like a witch's brew, the bubbly bubbles that were popping and spewing all over. It's quite thick, this sauce, and it smelled so good. I realized that I probably should have added more tomatillos and blended it in, because I think we would use this more than the green curry, or the green curry sauce. But whatever. This is lime juice. I added about 1 cup of lime juice in, and I know it seems like a lot, but you need it. Typically with water bath canning, tomatillos have more they're more acidic than green tomatoes are. So I wanted to make sure that I added enough acidity because I was water bath canning this. So I just basically put the sauce into the jars, and like I would with any other water bath canning method, everyone does things their own way, I'm sure. But for me, I didn't think that I needed to pressure can, even though I used my pressure canner to water bath can it. I didn't actually pressure can it. I just water bathed it. But basically, I just added this hot sauce into some warm, like my jars were hot, and it worked out really perfectly. I had exactly enough sauce for the jars that I had ready, right down to the last teaspoon. It was pretty awesome, actually. I find that this ladle works so good, getting into the bottom of the pot. It's a canning ladle that I found at one of our local stores here in town, and I really enjoy having it. It's worn out too. I always wipe the rims with vinegar, and usually this gives me the opportunity to feel the top of the rim, and I usually use paper towel, but I don't have any paper towel in the house, so I was using a rag that was quite thick. And so I did notice after there was a couple jars that had some nicks in the rims, and they didn't seal very well. They sealed, but not very well. So I definitely did not want to make those shelf stable. So I ended up planning on making dinner with 2 of the jars today. So I'll be doing that after as well. I'll be showing you how I'm using this sauce to make a really quick and easy dinner for my family. Okay, now we're working on the curry sauce, and I blended it up. I added the rest of the green tomatoes to that pot, and I blended it up. So I added butter. If you're canning, please move along. I added butter, and then I added some curry powder and some cumin to the mix. There's quite a bit of curry powder. I had some that was sitting in the cupboard that I wanted to use up. I should have toasted it. First, but I didn't. I was in a major rush. This was like 9 o'clock at night. I added some homemade brown sugar and then lemon juice. I wish I would have added a little bit more lemon juice and a little less sugar, but here nor there. I also added some salt to this, and I gave it a good mix up so that the butter melted and it all kind of blended in together. I was planning to be pureeing this in the high-powered food processor, or blender. That was some garlic, or I can't remember if it was garlic or onion. I think, it was onion. And then I also added some white pepper and some more salt, because it just needed a little bit more salt. And I gave it a good stir up again, and it went on into the blender, high-powered blender, and I pureed it. to make it a nice smooth sauce. It was actually really nice texture, and it tasted really good. I really like it with, I was snacking on it with like taco chips. It was super good, and I think it would be really good as a lentil soup base as well. I don't like lentils, so the fact that I am thinking about it says a lot about this sauce. It's actually really good. I actually did add some citric acid to each jar and give it a blend because I was water bath canning this. The pH was good. It was stable, but I just wanted to give it a little bit extra. And so yeah, I water bath canned it. Now, I'm going to make like an enchilada using some home canned black beans. These have been on my shelf for a year, and I haven't really gotten to using them. My husband absolutely hates chili, so other than making, like frying these up and making something like this out of it, I don't usually get to use these up very much. But I can these, I think I even did it in a video last year with you guys, and they're cooked through. They're nice and soft. They're a really nice bean. They have a good flavor. So basically I just I had some hamburger browning, and I had threw some oil down in a pan, got that hot, chopped up a couple peppers. I was regretting that decision because I put one too many chilies in there, and it was like burn your face off hot, but it was good. I added some it was dried onion so it could reconstitute and absorb from the peppers. I also added some cumin, and I added some chili powder, and I kind of just toasted that and cooked it. This was granulated garlic, or not granulated garlic, freeze-dried garlic bits that I wanted to add so it could reconstitute and pull out the moisture from the beans. And if I had fresh stuff, it would have been just fine too. This was some granulated garlic and granulated onion I added in there, just another layer of flavor to the dish. And I gave it a good mix up, and then I started mashing it with the wooden spoon. Just as I was stirring, I was mashing it. It came together really quickly. Didn't take long. The longest time it took was to cook the peppers, basically, so that they were soft. And then I added one of those unsealed jars of the verde into the beef, and then I added the beef and the beans together. I just didn't video that part, but I mixed the beans and the beef together. Then I took a baking sheet or a baking dish, and I added another part can or jar of the green salsa verde or green tomato verde, and I put down a tortilla. I found some that they were starting to go stale, so I don't know how old they were. They weren't moldy, and they didn't smell bad, so we're just going with it. And so I just basically made little, kind of like an enchilada, I guess, is what this would be. In the sauce like that, like so. I just kind of dipped the tortilla in there on both sides, and then just stuffed it, rolled it up, and put it on the baking dish. So this is super easy. I made this as a casserole, right? But then what I do after we're done eating, I usually portion this up into lunch containers. Like I have those bento boxes, lunch containers, and then I can freeze them. And the guys can then take the leftovers to work and to school. So it works really, really good. This was it came together so quick and easy, and it was actually really tasty. Those beans work so good in this dish. I put the rest of the sauce on top of them, and then I grated cheese, threw it in the oven covered, and this is what it was once it come out. I did broil it a little bit to get a little bit of crust once the guys came in from outside from cutting firewood, and dished it up, and I added some tortilla chips crushed up and a bit of sour cream to serve it, and it was so good. Burn your face off hot because of those chilies, but it was still good. Definitely making this again. It's the next day, and the freeze dryer is done. So I decided let's pull this out and give it a check and see how it's looking. The textures are really crispy, and I'll show you that in a second, but yeah, it turns like a foamy kind of texture. I never knew how much I would use these in the kitchen. Just having tomatoes like this, I use them so much. Same with the squash. Squash and tomatoes, freeze dried, are so valuable to have on your pantry shelf in a homestead kitchen. These watermelons, the texture is really cool, but it's kind of like styrofoam. I tasted it. Ugh. I don't like store-bought watermelon. Taste tester, Chaz, man. Watermelon.
Still tastes kind of the same, but I like the texture more, I guess. But
crunchy watermelon.
Yeah.
You like it?
Yeah, it's okay. It still kind of tastes like that store-bought watermelon, though.
It's not very good.
Not really.
Do you think it would be good if it was our watermelon, like homegrown?
Yeah, I think so.
Would you take these as a snack in your lunch?
I would, yeah.
Okay, that's what we're going to use them for then.
Okay.
You're probably the only one that likes them.
Yeah.
Thank you. I got these all packaged up. Now I'm just going to seal them and put them away to store. There are 4 bags of watermelon, 1 bag of the tomatoes, and 1 bag of a squash, yellow squash and pepper mix. So yeah, I got oxygen absorbers in there. These are not my favorite bags to use, but they're all I got and all I can get here in northern Alberta. So I'm just rolling with it. And to seal these up, I have my Harvest Right sealer, and this sealer actually comes with your Harvest Right. I know many people have been asking and such. This is really hard to do with one hand, by the way. Make sure it's nice and flat, and it's set for these bags, which it just sealed the top like so. I think I'm gonna give it another one because I was kind of crooked on my sealing. There. So it's nice and sealed, ready for the shelf. I need to organize my shelves, but yeah, I prefer these bags over these bags, but we're getting it. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me and Chaz today as we did some food preservation. I hope you enjoyed and maybe were inspired by what I do here on my homestead. Thanks so much for being here. Much love. Bye for now. By the way, if you're enjoying my videos, please consider liking and subscribing. Thanks.